private investigator means two things. You can be sure you'll run into trouble, and you can never be sure you get out of it. Well, there's not much you can do about it, I guess. Except, like Julie always says...
Walk softly, Peter Troy.
And now, Peter Troy investigates the trouble with Tanya.
Julie, the gal with the signature tune, she's the one who fights the unequal battle to keep me on the straight and narrow path. And you'll meet her again. But in the meantime, there's a blue-eyed, statuesque dame with hair as black as sin that I want to introduce you to. She's a living doll. But you're not going to thank me, because Tanya means trouble.
You'll be up and about in next to no time, George. Next to no time.
I'd like to believe that, Tanya, but it's just that I don't seem to be getting any better.
The doctor said you're just fine. I spoke to him.
That was very considerate of you, my dear.
You're important to me, George.
And you are important to me. You'll find that out one day.
George?
Those tablets on the side there.
These?
Yeah. Give me one, please.
Certainly.
Hurry.
You know, George, I've been wanting to talk to you about your will.
With the tablets.
You're a very rich man, you know.
Tanya, please. Tanya, unless you give me one of those tablets. What, did you hear me? Why are you looking at me like that? Tanya!
What on earth?
Harriet, what's the matter?
It's Mr. Castalia, ma'am.
What's the matter with him?
He's dead.
Dead?
Are you sure?
I just wanted to bring him afternoon tea.
Ring for Dr. Townsend, quickly.
Oh, yes, ma'am.
Tanya,
Yes, Adele.
he's dead.
I heard it.
Was it...
Did I kill him? I should imagine it's what everyone will want to know.
George Castalia was dead. The famed multimillionaire impresario was very dead. A man with a stack of enemies and very few friends. The question was, as Tanya, his very attractive ward, had already mentioned, did he die nice and quietly, or was he murdered? If the latter was the case, then it would seem that there could only be one logical suspect.
Tanya Castalia.
Oh, no.
Oh, yes. She's in the outer office waiting to see you.
Am I in?
She's tall, raven-haired, and with the biggest pair of blue eyes you've ever seen.
So I'm in.
Mm-hmm. I rather thought so. Miss Castalia, Mr. Troy will see you now.
Thank you.
Scream if you need anything, Pete.
Oh, bless you.
Oh, don't mention it.
Now, why don't you sit down, Miss Castalia?
Thank you. You can guess why I'm here, Mr. Troy.
Yeah, well, the newspapers have a story. I was reading it just before you called. Famed impresario's mysterious death. Your father...
My guardian. George Castalia looked after me following the death of my own parents in 1946.
Uh-huh.
The police refused to give out any details about the cause behind my guardian's death.
Well, that's strange. Still, they must have a reason for it.
Yes, they have. I suppose they believe he was murdered.
Hmm.
And if that's the case, then I'm the logical suspect.
I see.
You see, it's common knowledge that there was no love lost between George Castalia and myself. On top of that, I'm his next of kin. And as he left no will...
How do you know that?
His solicitor told me.
Oh.
George Castalia didn't like wills. He said they reminded him too much of death. Nevertheless, his estate will come to me. He took out formal adoption papers in 1947.
Okay, so where do I come in, Miss Castalia?
I think it's only a matter of hours before the police arrest me. They'll charge me with his murder, but I didn't kill him.
Well, then surely this...
But I'm the only one who could possibly gain by his death.
Ah.
I want you to prove that I had nothing to do with it, Mr. Troy. Nothing at all.
Well, now, the odds aren't altogether in your favor, are they?
No.
Is there anything else you have to tell me?
No.
Now, think carefully before you answer. I'll take the case, sure, but you better be warned that I only deal in the truth. Now, if you're innocent, you have nothing to fear from it. But if you're guilty...
The truth will hang me.
Exactly. So if you're holding anything back, you'd better spill it out now. I have a horrible habit of ferreting out people's secrets.
Very well, then.
That's better.
I was the last person to see George Castalia alive.
And?
And I need his money. Desperately.
Personally, I think you're out of your head.
Oh, that's nice.
If the police find out Castalia was murdered, then obviously the girl did it.
Obviously.
Well, if you ask me, she as good as confessed to you.
She merely said she was the last to see him alive.
She needed his money.
And there was no love lost between them. You know, come to think of it...
Oh, Pete.
Okay, but why'd you retain my services, honey bun?
It makes a good cover, don't you think?
Yeah, but it also pays a couple of bill collectors, too. And there was nothing phony about that £100 retainer she handed me.
Well, I've got that old feeling again, Peter.
Huh?
Oh, why don't you just stick to insurance claim cases?
Because they don't pay so well.
But you live longer.
Live fast, die young, and have a handsome corpse.
Well, you'd better slow down. Otherwise, you'll be the proud owner of that handsome corpse before you're ready. Oh, that looks like Castalia's house over there on the hill.
There must be a drive around here someplace.
The place looks like a castle.
Look, sweetie, look for a driveway on your side, huh?
Oh, 100 yards further on. I think there are some gates there.
Where? Oh, yeah.
Oh, Pete.
Yeah?
Let's turn back, huh?
Oh, now listen, sweetie.
Oh, this feeling.
We need the dough.
Oh, I don't think it's worth risking your neck for.
Well, here we are.
Gates are closed.
Simple. I'll open them up.
Oh, Pete.
Relax, please, Julie.
I think there's someone watching us, Pete.
It's a free world. Well, the gate's not locked anyway. So let's open it up and drive in.
Mr. Troy,
Huh?
how do you feel now?
Like I've been blown up.
You had a narrow escape.
Hey, I was blown up.
Someone had booby-trapped the gates.
Why aren't I dead?
I don't know, Pete, but I think we ought to say our fond farewells. and
Mr.
get-
Troy.
Who are you?
My name's Adele Lester. I was Mr. Castalia's housekeeper and private secretary.
Hey, where's Miss Castalia?
I don't know.
What do you mean you don't know?
Miss Lester says that no one's seen Tanya Castalia since she left here yesterday to come up to London.
To see me. But she told us she was coming straight back home.
I'd venture to say that by now she's probably on her way to Europe.
Oh, it skipped.
I think that's what they call it.
Well, the police...
I've told them she's disappeared.
Weren't you a little premature with that assumption?
I don't think so.
Look, Miss Lester, I wonder if you could rustle me up a cup of coffee. My head feels like it's suddenly going to leave my shoulders. Coffee'd have anchor in, I think.
Certainly, Mr. Troy.
Thank you.
Oh, that woman gives me the shivers.
Oh, she's not the sort of girl you take on to meet Mother. Now, listen, as soon as we're settled in, make some inquiries about the place. Down the village, maybe, huh? Find out if anyone's seen Tanya Castalia today. Find out if she did come back.
Pete, what are you getting at?
I very nearly cashed in my chips, remember? Somebody doesn't want me around the place. If Castalia didn't die a natural death...
Then
there's-
that someone could be the person responsible for killing him.
Yeah.
And our number one suspect is Tanya Castalia. You think she did come back?
Well, I wouldn't know. You could easily hide an army in this mansion.
Well, I had the horrible feeling there was someone watching us back.
Now I have the feeling we're still being watched.
Oh,
The
Peter.
door over there, look.
What?
Relax, Troy, and put that gun away.
Inspector Caswell.
Didn't they tell you I was investigating this case?
If I'd known that,
You down here by invitation?
Yeah, and you know it.
And trouble with you, Troy, is that you won't take any hints, will you?
You know about the little mishap I had at the main gate?
Yes, I do.
Well, I could have been killed.
Oh, no.
What do you mean, oh, no?
It was a nasty explosion, but there wasn't enough power behind it to kill anyone. Evidently, it was designed to scare you.
Well, in that, it succeeded.
You know, you ought to take the hint.
I was paid a retainer by a client.
Ah, yes. Miss Tanya Castalia.
Oh, you're a mine of information, aren't you, Inspector?
Well, now, you can hand the lady her money back.
That'd be rather like asking Peter to part with his right arm.
She retained me to clear her of...
Of what?
The murder.
What murder?
Oh, for heaven's sake, George Castalia's.
Mr. George Castalia died naturally, Troy. He suffered a heart attack. His doctors have been expecting it for some time.
Well, I'll be...
And you can tell your client to come out of hiding now. As there's been no murder, there can't possibly be any suspects. Can there?
I wasn't going to leave the Castalia household, no matter what the inspector would have me believe, until a couple of very important questions were answered to my complete satisfaction. Now, firstly, if there was no murder, then why had somebody gone to all the trouble of booby-trapping the gate? Secondly, if George Castalia had died naturally, what was Inspector Caswell still doing at the scene? Now, I think maybe the delectable Tanya could have answered the questions if she'd been there. But she was another query. Where the devil had she gotten herself to?
No murder, no suspects. No sense in your hanging around the place, Troy.
Ah, you're just a little bit too eager to get rid of me, Inspector.
Oh, no, I just think you're wasting your time, that's all.
Inspector, if you aren't a staunch upholder of the law, I'd be inclined to believe that maybe you had something to do with that firework display at the main gates.
Oh, dear, you have a suspicious mind.
Yeah, well, whilst we're on the subject of suspicious minds, would you like to tell me why you're still here?
No.
You're so cooperative.
Personally, I think we should take the inspector's advice and go home.
Oh, I couldn't do that, Julie. Wouldn't be ethical. No, I have to find my client and return her money to her. Incidentally, Inspector, is my client the only person who gains by Castalia's death?
Well, he had enemies. I suppose technically they all gained by his death.
Yeah, but specifically, though.
Your client,
And?
Castalia's secretary.
Ah. Something in a will, perhaps?
Yes.
Now, that's strange. Tanya led me to believe there was no will.
Really? Then she was under a misapprehension.
She ought to be told.
Oh, she will be, when we find her.
Oh, she's not in the house. We've
The
searched.
grounds?
No, not yet.
Well, then you won't have any objection if we have a look around.
No?
Oh, and one last thing.
Oh, yes, Troy.
The mysterious will. Where's it now?
I'm afraid I can't answer that.
Why not?
Because its whereabouts is a bit of a mystery. No one quite knows where it is.
Or if there really is one, I'll bet.
Just exactly what are you looking for, Pete?
I'm just trying to figure out whether or not that booby trap was meant for me. Yep, here's the gimmick. You pull back the gates to a certain distance, and that pulls this wire, which leads to what used to be a detonator and charge. And Caswell was right. It's only meant to scare me, or somebody.
Well, I'd settle for Adele Lester as being responsible for the little surprise packet.
You could be right. Hello, what do we hear?
What are you staring at?
Look, through those trees. Caught the reflection of the sun on glass. Window pane, maybe. Now, I think there's a little house or something tucked away in there. And let's go and have a look-see, huh?
Oh, Pete.
I know. You're getting that old feeling again. Hey, there's an old path here. Hasn't been used in ages. It's overgrown.
Oh, you're right. It is a house or a lodge. And it looks deserted.
Looks, my pet, can be deceiving.
Oh, in this case, I hope they're not. Well, do we knock?
No, I don't think it's necessary. Just stand back, sweetie. I'm going to kick in the door. Here we are.
After you.
It doesn't seem like there's anybody in residence.
Pete?
Huh?
There's something wrong.
Oh, now listen,
No,
sweetie.
this isn't intuition. This is fact.
Huh?
Well, there's not enough dust around. And when you kicked in that door, it didn't creak.
Hey, you know something, Julie? You're right.
So let's get out.
Now, wait a minute. Julie, you go back up the house, find Caswell, and ask him to lend you a torch.
Oh,
now,
but
go on.
Oh, you're the boss.
Julie? Julie, is that you? Did you close the front door? Okay. Who is it? Come on now, no games. I know there's somebody there.
Is he...
No, he's not dead.
Oh, you can't do anything, right, can you?
The bullet creased his skull. He's out to it.
All right, then finish the job.
I can't risk another shot. They could hear it up the house.
Well, then what?
The well. Push him down there, and that'll be an end to him.
Well, hurry, then. Let's get the snooper out of the way. For good.
Lodge house?
Yes, we found it near the main gates. It's hidden from the drive.
That place is empty.
Well, Pete doesn't think it is now. He wants to borrow a torch.
Crazy interfering fool.
Oh, Inspector, please.
Oh, all right, but I'm coming with you.
Well, let's hurry.
Oh, come on, then.
Oh, you're taking the long way round. Here, follow me. There's a path back this way. It's the one Mr. Castalia used to use.
Castalia used?
Yes. The lodge house used to be his hideaway. He made the place into a study.
Well, then that explains the door that didn't creak and the lack of dust around the place.
He used it right up until the time of his death.
Who knows about the lodge house?
Well, I knew about it, and Tanya most certainly did.
What was that?
Sounded like a splash.
The old well.
What old well?
There's a disused well over beside the lodge house. It's very deep.
Yes, and it sounds as though Troy's fallen down into it.
They'll never find his body down there.
Vince, I thought I heard someone coming.
Your imagination's working overtime. Come on, let's get back to work.
I don't think we're ever going to find it, Vince. I don't think there is a well.
Oh, of course there is. I witnessed it, remember? It has to be around here somewhere. It has to be destroyed.
But he always said he disapproved of wills. He said there were more there.
Then he changed his mind. After he learned about your many gambling debts, my love. He didn't want Adele to be left out in the cold. He wanted her provided for.
With 3/4 of the estate.
She worked for him a long time, you know. Oh, that darn thing must be hidden in here somewhere. Why he refused to keep it at our office, I'll never know.
Perhaps because he didn't trust her. Hold it.
Try!
Now, lady, when next you want to terminate a private investigator's services, find some other way of doing it, will you? Oh, and incidentally, drop that gun, mister. I'll guarantee I can empty this revolver of mine while you're still thinking about pulling the trigger of yours. Now, that's better.
How did you get out of that well?
Just relax. It'll be my secret for the time being. You, I take it, would be Tanya's ever-loving boyfriend.
What?
Oh, don't look so surprised. I knew there had to be a man tied up in this case somewhere. I'll tell you something else, too. You're ex-Royal Engineers.
You're guessing.
A pretty good guess, huh? How did I know? I was in Korea, Buster. I've seen booby traps before. The one you rigged to the gates was a pretty professional sort of job. As professional as George Castalia's murder.
I didn't do that.
Perhaps not. But it was a murder, wasn't it?
Would you shoot a woman, Mr. Troy?
What's that got to do with it?
Just this. I'm standing right in front of you, and Vince is going to pick up his gun. Now, if you want to stop him, you'll have to shoot me.
Get out of the way.
Too late, Troy.
Get him, Vince!
Not on your life, Tanya. I'm getting out.
Lady, you've been
He
ditched.
can't get away with this.
He just did, and you're left holding the bag.
Well, they can't prove anything.
I've got him, Sergeant.
Well, it would seem that your boyfriend's just run into some trouble. Oh, I did forget to tell you. It was Inspector Caswell who pulled me out of that deep well.
I'm sorry, Miss Castalia, but Mr. Eldridge is dead. We had no option. He tried to shoot it out.
He double-crossed me.
By running out on you.
Did he say anything before he died?
No.
But I think you ought to do some talking.
About what?
About how you murdered George Castalia.
He died of a heart attack.
True. But he needn't have done.
You know, he could have survived it if he'd been given one of his tablets.
And you were the last person to see him alive.
All right, so he had the heart attack whilst I was there, but I couldn't help him. I didn't know where the tablets were.
They were on the table beside his bed.
I didn't see them.
Oh, you saw them all right, and you picked them up. Your fingerprints are on the bottle.
No.
Seems to me you deliberately held them back from him.
You can't prove anything.
Well, maybe. But a judge and jury will think differently.
It wasn't my idea.
Was it Eldridge's?
Yes. Yes.
All right, Sergeant, open the door and let him in.
Let who in?
Me, Tanya.
But they said you were dead.
An unethical lie, but it seems to have done the trick.
All right, but it was still his idea. He was George Castaglia's lawyer. He knew about the will, but he didn't know where to find it.
If he had come to me, I could have told him where it was.
You mean to say he didn't hide it?
Well, he didn't hide it down in the lodge house anywhere.
Tanya, you said you were sure it was there.
It was under his pillow. You were within a foot of it when you were upstairs with him, Tanya.
Oh, my. You made a lot of mistakes, didn't you, Miss Castaglia?
Yes, and the biggest was bringing Troy in on the case.
Yes, why did you do that?
Oh, that's easy, sweetie. She thought if the police discovered it was murder, then they looked to her as the logical suspect. She knew the will stipulated that 3/4 of the estate was to go to Miss Adele Lester. She knew that I'd find out about that will eventually, thereby giving the police another suspect.
Then why try and scare you off?
Because we made no official statement of our Castaglia's death. But we put the rumor around that we were sure he died of natural causes.
And then, of course, Tanya was scared that I'd snoop around until I found out the truth.
And you always seem to make one mistake, don't you?
I do?
Mm-hmm. You never seem to remember to walk softly, Peter Troy.
So Tanya and her boyfriend, Vincent Eldridge, had searched the lodge house for nothing. Their carefully laid and almost perfect murder plan came unstuck. Oh, I didn't refund a retainer to her. I figure she doesn't need money where she's going. Board and lodgings are on the house. But I did get a nice, handsome check from Adele Lester after that missing will was read. She thought I needed some compensation from the ducking I got down that well. And as Julie says, £50 buys an awful lot of aspirin.